There are a number of ways to zoom in and out of images, as well as to pan around to see different areas. So let's select this first image, hold down the Command key on Mac or the Control key on Windows, and select the second one, and then use the shortcut Command O in order to open those. That'd be Control O on Windows. If we look at the View menu, there are 4 different options here that I use quite often. The first is Zoom In, the second is Zoom Out, the third is Fit on Screen, and then the fourth one is this 100%. So let's take a look. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcuts. We can see it's Command plus to zoom in, Command minus to zoom out, Command 0 for Fit on Screen, and Command 1 to go to 100%. So every time I use Command plus on the Mac or Control plus on Windows, I'm going to zoom in. Every time I use it with the minus key, I will zoom out. If I use Command 0, Photoshop is going to fit the image inside this preview area as large as it can, but making sure that it contains the whole image. So we're seeing the whole thing. None of it has been pushed off to the side or anything. Now, if I use Command 1, now I've zoomed in to 100% and I can't see the whole image. I can only see part of it. All right, let's zoom back using Command 0 to fit in window. But sometimes you might notice that the image looks a little bit jaggy in the view. And that depends on how large the image is and the resolution of your monitor. But you can always use the little zoom percentage option in the lower left. In this case, it's set to 74.38%. I bet if I just put that to maybe 70% and hit enter or return, I'm going to remove those jaggies. All right, we can also zoom in using the zoom tool. So I'll tap Z to select that tool. And every time I click in the image area, Photoshop will zoom in. And that's because it gives me the zoom in by default if I hold down the Option key on the Mac or the Alt key on Windows, or if I just select this next icon in the options bar and I click, now I'm going to zoom out. But you can also use what's called scrubby zoom. I'll choose the zoom in tool, and now as I click and drag to the right, you can see that I zoom in, and if I click and drag to the left, then I will zoom out. We can also zoom using the navigator panel. I'll select it from the window menu here, and at the bottom, we've got a percentage. So if I wanted to go to, say, 80%, I could just type that in. Or I can use the slider around the mountains to zoom out or to zoom in. And once I've zoomed in, I can click inside of that red rectangle in order to reposition the area that I'm looking at in the preview window here. All right, let's collapse that for a moment. And you'll notice that once you've zoomed in, you get scroll bars on the right side as well as at the bottom of the image so that you can scroll around. But if I tap the H key, that will give me the hand tool. And now I can click and drag to scroll or pan in multiple directions at one time. Now, if I click and drag and let go, Photoshop continues to scroll for a moment, and that's called flick panning. I actually really like that, but if you don't like it, you could always go to the Preferences and then come to Tools, and you could disable the flick panning here. All right, I'm going to change to another tool. I'll tap the M key, and that will give me the marquee tool to show you that if you hold down the space bar, even though I have another tool selected, I can go ahead and pan around. The space bar is temporarily giving me the hand tool. Finally, if I double click on the hand tool, then Photoshop will fit in window. And if I double click on the zoom tool, Photoshop will zoom to 100%. But what if I'm working with multiple images open? I'm going to tile these by choosing Window and then Arrange and then Tile All vertically. Now these two images are at 2 different zoom percentages. If I wanted them to match, I could choose Window, Arrange, and then Match Zoom. You'll notice I could also match location, rotation, or all of the above. Here I'll choose to match the zoom. Now, if I wanted to zoom in and zoom out on multiple windows at one time, with the zoom tool selected, I could enable Zoom All Windows and click to zoom in or hold down the Option key to zoom out. If I don't want to enable this, but I just want to temporarily turn it on, then I can hold down the Shift key and you'll see that I can zoom into both images at one time. This also works with a hand tool, so I'll tap the H key and you can see there's an option to scroll all windows. I can enable that to scroll both windows at one time, or I can disable it and just hold down the Shift key in order to temporarily enable it. So as you can see, there are a variety of different ways to view your images, and it's good to know that they all exist so that you can find the method that works best for you.